Today we're going to be looking at if statements, and that's going to be split into 3 sections, kind of. Let's get started. So an if statement is super important in any programming language. It's kind of how you make decisions, fundamentally. And the way you usually do it is we're going to do it really simply. We're going to have a variable like x and a variable y, we're going to make that 5 also. And what we can do is we can say if x is equal to y, and we have to use the double equal sign operator, which is basically saying is it equal to rather than assigning it. Then we can do something. So if x is equal to y, then we can do something. We can print x is equal to y, and this should probably be a small x. So if we go ahead and execute this, then this is kind of the simplest if statement we can make. Alternatively, so you can kind of split an if statement into 3. You've got if, you've got elif, and then you've got else. Now you don't need to use elif, but it's pretty much recommended to always use else to kind of catch because you don't want the program to be random, you want it to be defined. So you want to say if x is equal to y, do this, else, print x is, or we could just do undefined, it doesn't really matter, although it is defined in this case. So this will actually now, if it's not equal, then this will actually print undefined now. So it's actually good, it's actually given us some feedback. So you should never just leave an open-ended if statement. That's kind of the fundamental thing here. Alternatively though, you can use this Elif statement. What we can do is we can say, and this is just another if statement, but and you can have a bunch of these really. And we could say elif x is kind of, less than y. Then we want to say, well, x is less than y. X is less than y, not least. Less than y. So we've got 2, and currently x is in fact, I don't know why I said 7, I meant y. Currently we do in fact see that x is in fact less than y. So it's going to look at this and say, is x equal to y? Nope. Elif, is x less than y? Yes. So it's going to go into here, and then it's going to print this. So let's execute this, and it says x is less than y. So that's great. And again, it will actually go to the undefined if it's not. So what will make this undefined currently? Well, if x is greater than y, for example, then it's not going to go into the top one or the middle one, and it's just going to go all the way down to the bottom and hit our else statement, which is just there for a safety net. So that's if statements. We can also do nested if statements. So we can actually, should we keep that there or should we remove it? I guess we don't need this anymore. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove all of this, and we're actually going to start with a new x thingy. We're going to say if x is we're going to say less than 10 for now. Then so it's going to go into here only if x is less than 10. Right now x is let's make x equal to 7, right? So we're going to say if x is less than 10, go into here. Then we're going to say if x is greater than 5, go in here. Then we could go even one step further. You would never have a triple nested if statement really, I don't think. I can't think of any scenarios where I've ever had to do that. But you might have a double nested, unless you've got really bad code. That's probably how you end up with a bunch of if statements. So now we could say, well, at this point we could say if x is equal to 7, or let's just make it y and make y equal to 7. Then we can actually finally go ahead and print x is equal to y, and of course that was all unnecessary, but it's just proving that we can do it. So we go ahead and execute the script now, and I didn't actually follow my own advice of having an else statement, but we've got x is equal to y. So we've gone into here, x is less than 10, x is greater than 5, x is equal to y, print x. And again guys, always have this else statement, which is right at the, I want it here. See, this is annoying. So I make sure, that's the other thing, right? You can actually have else statements within the nested loop. So, for example, right now, this else statement only corresponds to this if statement. If you want it to correspond to this one, then we have to line it up. And Python is sensitive to indentation, whereas languages like C, C++, for example, they don't care, and even languages like PHP, they don't really care about your indentation, although it's recommended. Python does. So if they're not indented correctly, then you're going to get errors. And make sure to stay consistent with either using spaces. Python doesn't really like tabs, so that's kind of my recommendation. So now this else statement again is going to be lined up with that if statement here. So we're going to make this now. We want x to stay true, but we're going to make y 6. So we're going to get into this, and x is not going to be equal to y, and we're going to say print x is not equal to y. That's a t. So let's go ahead and execute this now, and we get x is not equal to y. And what else we can do, because I said about I want an else statement here just to protect us from any kind of big errors. We're going to say x is greater than, because if we're down here then x is probably greater than 10. And we're going to make this 11 now. And we're just going to bypass that whole giant if statement, and we're going to get x is greater than 10. So I think that's it for if statements. So leave a like, subscribe, and thank you for watching.